I want to introduce you to our local author today. This is Tamara Ali. She's a writer, a professional daydreamer. I love that.
Love it.
And you were born to two writers yourself. So, and was putting her pen to paper from an early age, writing everything from songs to poetry. And after many attempts at novel writing, Tamara finally published her debut novel, Red Like Love. Red Like Love.
Yes, that's my debut novel.
Red Like Love.
I love that title.
Is it a play on words or is it R-E-D?
No, it's not. It's not a play on words.
Okay.
Actually, it's just Red Like Love.
Red Like Love. I'm obsessed.
I know, right? Love she said at the young age of 19 she began that. Hold on. I'm trying to develop those levels there. All right. And Red Like Love is a contemporary young adult novel. But you are here to talk about your poetry book.
Yes.
And I want you to tell me a little bit about that one, which is called A Pretty Thing in the Middle of Nowhere. A collection of poems that tell a love story, heartbreak, and healing. Now, if you see this young lady in front of us, I personally think you're still 19, if not younger. And you know about heartbreak and love and all of that. So, you know what? Give it up to Tamara Ali. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, thank you. Hello, Trinidad and Tobago.
We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And this is your second book.
Yes, so this is my second book, my first poetry book. Well, my first book I published when I was 19. No, I won't say how old I am now. I still look 19.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, this one is a collection of poems. So it was a little different for me from my first book, but I am excited to delve into the poetry world. This one, A Pretty Thing in the Middle of Nowhere, like it said, it's separated into three parts. So the first part is more love, falling in love, romance. The second part is the heartbreak. Things start to kind of fall apart. And the third part is the healing process.
I want you to, before we go into that, kind of give us a little bit, because you said that you're born to two writers.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about living in a house with two writers.
Well, both of my parents write. So I guess I kind of it was in my genes, like naturally, to get into writing. And I was thankful that both of them are writers as well, because I know a lot of writers in Trinidad, we don't always get the support. It's like, oh, you want to write a book, you can't make any money doing that or anything. But my parents were always supportive, because I feel like they also kind of were living through me, like, and, bigging up themselves as like, well, you get that from me and all that. So...
Yeah.
We do that.
Yeah, so I was thankful to have that support and to, have that.
That is true, though, because not everybody, and I know other listeners are listening in and saying, yeah, that's true. I mean, if I went to my parents and said, I want to be a writer, and they are not, they don't understand that word.
Yeah.
They're like, what?
Why?
Why? It's like, it might as well. I don't know why. We need to be like, let's normalize just whatever it is that they want to do. Like, great, I have no idea what that's about, but let's go into it.
It's finding that
support in the arts more, in the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance of support. But that means there's also a lot to unpack as well when it comes to that. Because when your child comes and says, I want to do this, and you're like, oh my God, how is my child going to eat for the rest of their life? It's definitely unpacking that thought. But let's unpack some of your thoughts, Tamara. Specifically, as Karen would have mentioned, you are beautiful and young. And what you brought up with your poetry definitely shows some wisdom, almost like some kind of old soul vibes going on there. So walk us through what inspired you to say, first of all, now it's time for poetry, because as you mentioned, writing a novel and stuff like that. But secondly, this theme, I mean, this is a powerful theme, the theme of heartbreak and love and so much more.
Yeah. Well, my decision to get into the poetry, I kind of have always been writing poetry, but I always hesitated to publish it or to put it out, because to me, like, poetry was a lot more personal. With the novel writing, it's like, yeah, that's fiction and whatnot, but poetry is like, oh yeah, that's my real feelings, or heavily inspired by my real feelings.
Right.
But when I wrote this book, what inspired me to write this book, I always say, was my muse. And sometimes, you get a muse so powerful, it's like, I have to put this out. I have to let other people read it, because also like you would have said, I'm so young, and people kind of assume that because you're so young, you don't know anything about love and heartbreak and going through all of that. But I went through it, you know, and a lot of young people I know went through it, and I want them to be able to relate, you know, see these poems and relate to them and feel seen, feel heard. So
That is important. You see what you just mentioned there about being young, and a lot of people like when you're young, you know, you're too young to know what heartbreak is and that sort of thing. But the reality is we all remember our first heartbreak, especially when we are young. And that one cuts deeper than anything else.
I am not what you would call by definition young, and I just
Lord Jesus.
click-
that one.
and I clicked into it as you said that moment, that space. I could cry right now, but I have too much pride. No, because it gets visceral if you allow it to, and sometimes it's that space I do as a songwriter. Sometimes I go there just for that moment, so I can just kind of tap in, get the moment or the whatever it is that I want to hone in on. Maybe it is heartbreak, maybe it's pain, maybe it's anger, and then I have the ability to come out of it.
To pull it out. That's very important.
Yes.
What Karen just mentioned, does that happen to you with your writing?
I was about to do that, yeah.
yeah, actually, that is exactly what I do when I'm writing poetry. I go back to that specific moment as well of when I had that feeling, and I write from there. Even if, like, by the time I'm writing it, the feeling has already passed, I have to go back to that specific time mentally. Yeah. So I want to, like, also try to, you know, make sure that what I write it could connect to people and is authentic. So I have to go back to when I was actually feeling those things, you know.
Tell me the very, well, maybe not necessarily the first time, but I always, at first, I hated doing it because it feels as if it's real in that moment. And goodness gracious, you took so long to get out of it. And to go back in, it's like, hi, how you doing? Hey, pain. Hey, suffering. Hey, absolute devastation. Let's go in. Remember this? Remember that? Okay. How do you deal with that and be able to know that, okay, this is just a tool now, as opposed to going through that in the very first time that you went through those pains?
That is an excellent question, because I wondered at myself, you know. I wrote this poetry book to kind of heal from whatever it is I went through. And I was telling my friends this before, as I have to, you know, talk about it now and promote it and all of these things and edit it and all of these things, it takes me back to those feelings. And sometimes I myself, even though I'm healed now, I would read back a poem that I wrote when I was, like, pissed off, and I feel pissed off again. So it's really just about, like, I just had to take time and, you know, calm down and say, hey, like, that's in the past, let that go, calm down. So it is a struggle, but I try to make it.
I think that, but what I think I want to just emphasize there is that you did this so that it's a cathartic exercise in releasing that pain.
Yeah.
So then, you know, the listeners, the readers of this book can have that opportunity to have that cathartic expulsion of that pain as well.
Exactly. Like how I was saying, I want readers to be able to relate, especially young people. I know sometimes it's hard for young persons, especially in Trinidad, to, you know, talk about these types of things that we've been through, like with relationships and whatnot, especially like to our parents, because it might be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, you're too young. So like I want them to be able to read this and be like, okay, well, this poem understands me, you know, and yeah, that's what I want from it.
So let's go into the actual drafting of this book particularly, because I mean, one of the first things, of course, it's an amazing feat in order to be able to publish. Did you self-publish?
Yes, I
okay,
self-published.
Wonderful. So we need to talk about that too. But let's go into how you elected your poetry, because you did mention there are 3 phases, and I'm sure that you have a lot of poems just like in your catalog itself. So what was the process like for electing the poems that you wanted to include in it? And did you sort of, let's say, map it out or timeline it so that your readers would get a certain experience?
Yes, well, when I first started drafting the book, I didn't realize it was going to turn into a book. I kind of was just like collecting these different poems that I wrote to my muse. Once I had the billions and billions of poems out, then I decided, okay, you know, I could actually separate this, and I could pick these poems that are about when I first met her, and the romance, and then these poems that are like really bitter and angry, and I just clustered them out. And then eventually I realized, wait, I could separate this into 3 different parts and actually tell a story, and it not just be a collection of poems, but a genuine story,
I love it. What? Go ahead.
Okay. If there's one thing, because I know you did mention, of course, you would like your readers to feel seen and so much more. But if there is one particular thing, just one thing you want readers to take away from it, regardless of age, race, creed, class, gender, what would you want them to take away from it?
I want them to take away that love is not black and white.
Amen to that.
And so that is really what all it is. Love is not black and white, and the falling in love with somebody, the feeling angry, the feeling hurt, the feeling frustrated, the feeling like, oh, I want to just get over them. All of that is a part of love. But at the end of the day, self-love is what would get you out of the heartbreak.
Yeah.
So that's what I want. I want them to get the journey.
Amen to that.
My
Wise
word.
beyond years. If I could have heard this when I was 19 years old, life would be so
I'm
different.
not 19 anymore. But I won't tell you how old I am now.
I agree with you. We also know that the 2 years of COVID do not count towards our age.
Amen.
I'm just
Great.
saying.
Great.
Correct.
Amen.
I'm weak. Well then, well then I have to change my plans.
Yes,
when
you do.
I start to do my birthday. No, I have to, wow. Let's just take a pause for a second. Because really, the words that are coming out your mouth are things that I probably only finally got to when I was in my 30s.
My God.
You okay? Yes. Yes, Granny Karen is...
Ancient ages.
No, I'm not that old, but still, I just feel like I was a granny sometimes. But listen, so here's the thing. I did ask you this, and I'm hoping that you have it prepared, because I would love for you to perform
Yes.
one of
Let me
these
switch
poems.
off my mic.
I do. I have one poem. When you asked me, I was like, yeah, of course. But then I started to think, which poem should I do? But I decided on this one. It's one of the latest ones I actually added to the book, to the collection. It's called How to Swim, A Lover's Guide.
Ooh.
Ooh, okay, so folks, if you're now tuning in, this is Lit Chats, and we have Tamara Ali, and she's going to perform her poem.
I just want to say, everybody, just breathe in, hold for a count of 3, and breathe out for a count of 3. Relax your soul and your spirits. Okay.
I have always been afraid to swim. I have been convinced that the water will pirouette around my feet and wet the sand so soggy that it will collapse beneath me. There will be no wave to push me back to safety. It was such a relief to leave my mother's wet womb, but at age 3 I was dunked into a pool so deep that I'm still coughing up the water 18 years later. It was such a relief to meet you on the pavement, to feel the grass beneath our feet as we share stories, to climb through broken doors and laugh in haunted halls. I struggle to express my love sometimes, but the day a tsunami arrives, if only one breath is able to inhale before the water gags us, you can have mine. That was How to Swim, A Lover's Guide by me, Tamara Ali.
Did you close your eyes? That's the most important thing. Okay.
I love that poem so much.
It was so beautifully written, and it definitely was able to evoke images in my mind of literally running through haunted halls with somebody. And that last line with the tsunami, no, not even the last line, escaping from your mother's womb, felt. 3 years old, water felt. I almost drowned when I was 3. Fun fact. So this, so you see, there we go.
Wow.
Why is that a universal experience?
Hey, it was
was
probably,
at 11.
It was my fault, 100%.
My brother.
The swim instructor was like, "Can you swim?" I was like, "Yes," and I jumped in the pool and I could not swim.
No, I was 11 and I was supposed to be swimming as a swimming in my first race, but I did not know or remember.
Hold on, how are you taking part in a race if you can't swim?
11. Well, I could swim, but I didn't know how to wade. So to wade over to the thing. So I don't know, for whatever reason, I wasn't there for that lesson. And I started to wade and I went down. And let me tell you, very peaceful, feeling myself slowly succumb to the water.
Oh,
And
that's nice. Mine was terrifying. I remember looking up,
Oh.
and I can still remember to this day just looking up and seeing the water and people just looking down at me. What was your experience?
Mine was I was in a swimming class and the instructor was like picking us up off the ledge thing and dunking us in one by one, and he did that to me, and I felt like that 2 seconds of being underwater felt like
Yeah.
a billion years. I was traumatized. I still can't swim because I'm so traumatized from that. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But I took the swimming and changed it into a metaphor for this poem to mean love. So instead of like how to swim, I'm actually talking about I don't know how to love somebody. But
that there was a line that took me in that I think it was in the ending where you said I was about to gag, but you can have mine or something like. I'm butchering it up.
The breath with the tsunami.
yeah, if the day a tsunami arrives, if only one breath is able to inhale before the water gags us, you can have mine.
Deeper. Deep. Oh, good.
Come a little closer to me here. For the right.
Yes, please.
And Karen has now found herself in the live stream and is waving. Oh, there we go. We can see you there as well. So that's very moving, to say the least. And again, it goes back to being seen, because that what you just shared with us, you unpack memories for Karen, myself, and I'm sure everybody who's listening also. When you started writing, did you always know that one of the things you wanted was to be able to connect with people?
Yes. Before I even started writing, I always kind of wanted to. When I was younger, I wanted to be famous, right? But like I said in my bio, I was writing songs, so I wanted to kind of like be a famous singer. But it was always about connecting with people through my writing. You know, so once I discovered like writing stories and poetry, I was like, I still want to be able to connect with people, especially people around my age. When I was a teenager, I was like, yeah, I want to connect to other teenagers and just help them feel seen with my writing, you know, through my writing.
What about self-publishing? It's quite interesting. You mentioned that you self-published. What was that process like?
Well, the first time it was pretty challenging because I didn't know what I was doing. And when I published my first book, I was 19, so I kind of was stupid.
Don't say that. You were lost.
I didn't know what I was doing. Let's just say that, right? But now for my second book, I have a lot more, you know, information and connection. So it's a much smoother process. I was actually thinking about doing like more traditional publishing later on. But you know, we'll see how that goes.
How long did it take you to learn the self-publishing process when you first started?
When I first started, I started looking into it when I was like 18. So yeah, like about a year or two, trying to really get it.
Yeah. It's important that you share that, because many times, especially now, I'm sure you see it on socials all the time, like on TT and Instagram, where they're like, you can self-publish this and you can make this amount of money and this is like your stream of income, and they make it seem like you could just self-publish this book in like 2 hours.
You see, the publishing is pretty easy, especially I do it on Amazon KDP. That's a really, really, really easy process. The marketing is the harder process. Yeah, you can publish in 2 seconds, but I mean, who is people gonna buy it? You know, it's about the marketing.
How are they going to know exactly finding your audience?
Question. Let's talk about the cover of your book. I say this because it's like the bane of my existence with KDP is your cover has to match this specific sizing, and you're just there like, okay, the margin has to like make. So walk us through your cover process.
But KDP, they give you a calculator for the cover, so I put in the dimensions. I put in like the page count, and they tell me, you know, what the margin should look like. And thankfully my cover designer, shout out to you with graphic designs, she would take that and she would make it to fit. If I needed, you know, to make any little changes with it, with the size, she would do that for me.
So as you would have mentioned, your cover designer there, it also brings up the concepts and the fact that a community is behind this, like friendship is behind this too, and support. But you also spoke a little bit earlier about, you know, with your poetry, you didn't use the word hesitancy, but the fact that, you know, it's your feeling. So to put it out there is to be vulnerable.
Yes.
How important was your community when it came to really taking that step? Because, I mean, you think about it as like, okay, so here all my feelings are in a book and all my friends gonna read this now.
Well, I would say my friends, they were a big part of me deciding to publish this book. Like I said, when I first wrote the book, when I first started writing a lot of the poems, I didn't think I was really going to publish it. I thought I was just, writing like a little diary at first. But then when I kind of organized the collection, I showed it to two of my friends. Shouts out to Alexia and Candice. I showed it to them and they read it. They read the first draft. And they loved it. They were like, "Oh my God, Tamara, this is so good." Da, 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 da. And they really like kind of motivated me to actually put it out, to publish it. So my friends they definitely supported me throughout this entire experience. Yeah.
I want to ask you, what are the plans for maybe marketing this book and maybe and whatnot? What's the plans for it?
Well, a lot of like appearances, hopefully somebody would put me on like their radio show or something one day.
Bucket list tick.
And the other day I did Kaiso back chat, so I'm doing a lot more like performing my poems. I'm doing a lot of like marketing on social media. You can follow my Instagram, Girl with the Purple Pen.
Oh, I like that. Girl with the purple pen.
Yes, that's
let's
my
not
like
eat it up. Let's
my
see.
AKA. I also want to do like visual versions of some of my poems from the book to have on like YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. I feel like the visuals would really help. Like
Visual versions of your poetry.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. You do that for songs. They
Yeah.
have all the little songs with that, but I
For
like
poetry,
that.
yeah.
It makes sense.
So that's what I'm trying to fix up right now, the visuals.
And tell us about your. I didn't ask about this before, and I'm surprised I didn't. In terms of your process of writing, because that particular poem was short. Are some of them longer, or some of them are they particularly in that frame, that style?
They definitely vary. I have
do.
poems that are like 1 page, and then I have poems that go 5-6 pages. So they vary for sure.
So that is, and it happens. You just do the process and let the inspiration tell you when.
Yeah, when I'm
Like,
writing
how do you know when it's done?
When I'm writing a poem, I don't write it thinking this is a poem at first. I just put all my feelings out on the page, and then afterwards when I'm editing, that's when I would neat it up and but I try to put my feelings out first so it could be as authentic as possible. If I'm thinking from the start, this is a poem, people are going to read this, I might hold back. I might want to shorten it because I don't want to say it too much, or I might want to make it longer, So I just put everything out at first, and then I would edit it and decide, okay, how long should this be, stuff like that.
So I'm here macroing now the Girl with the Purple Pen on Instagram. And one of the things that I find quite fascinating with the 3 parts of your book is, so the first one, To Meet You was to love you instantly and forever, which I think many people can probably at least grab at and be like, love at first sight, maybe in a different way. To lose you was to lose my sanity. That is something that is so deep as well. And one of the titles that stood out to me was Our Friends Are Laughing at Me. That sounds like it's very in-depth and raw, for want of a better expression. When I'm looking at these titles of these different poems here, you can see that there are different waves on this of emotion that come out there. And I know we would have spoken about it earlier with the fact that when you did you have that emotion? But now looking at it here, what would you say is one of the main themes aside from love that runs through this?
A lot of friendship, because my muse, we were friends, we were in the same friend group. So like that poem, Our Friends Are Laughing at Me, that's talking about kind of managing being with somebody or liking somebody while you're in the same friend group, and then once the like breakup happens, it's like, okay, well, these are my friends.
Yeah,
These are your friends.
It's like a divorce.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Don't talk to that one.
Something I find quite also significant is, from what I'm seeing here, the 49th is Love Tea. Is that very much like the conclusion, the end, the finale?
That is the end. That is one of the later ones I wrote as well, because I wanted to make sure that my final words were perfect, for lack of a better word. I didn't want it to be too I hate you, the end, too bitter. I didn't want it to be too sad, or I wanted it to be like just proper closure.
Yeah, man.
for not just the muse, but for myself as well.
And something else, one more thing, and I'm done because I was marking her Instagram. So I saw in one of your posts as well that there's a lot of like handwritten, like you have a book that you write in. Are you one of those that still writes by hand, or you just go straight to your notes
That's
on
a
your phone and
great-
start
Great
writing?
question.
Yeah, I have a diary.
Okay.
I yap to my diary a lot. My diary is my best friend. So
Hey.
a lot of times I would start to write poems in my diary, and then I would just edit it over like in my notes and whatnot. But I definitely I do love to write by hand for sure.
Are there any novels in the near future that we can look forward to as well? You're thinking you don't have to say much about it because we're talking about this one right now. But I just wondered.
Yeah,
if
I
there are.
definitely I plan to write a lot more novels, a lot more poetry books. That's a question mark, you know. But novels for sure. I have about 3 like in drafts right now.
Oh.
Now that I'm about to graduate university, I'm free. I could focus a little bit more on them. But I definitely have some novels.
Do you mind us asking? You just mentioned you're about to graduate from university. Are you studying for this? Are you studying literary?
No, I'm actually studying social work.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because that's another passion of mine. So I didn't want to just. I'm a type of person. I can't just do one thing my whole life. Like I have to. I'm doing social work here. I'm doing writing here. Like I do a lot of things.
But that's fascinating though, because that can also give you that platform, because social work is definitely emotionally deep, to say the least.
Right.
So it gives you a space now where you may be able to, and if you haven't already, because you definitely are far ahead of your time, marry the love for writing and your talent with social work as well, and actually tell a different story and
Yeah.
make
Yes,
change.
Yes,
See.
making change through social work. It's we have about 3 minutes left in our segment, but 4 minutes left in our segment. I wanted to highlight exactly where persons you said where they can to contact you, but to get access to the book and be able to.
The book will
To
be
purchase it.
published on Amazon June 21st, 2025. So that's soon. That's next month, I
A
believe.
special day.
Yeah, it is a special day actually. So yeah, Amazon. I am trying to get it into local bookstores as well. Right now, I have my first book, Read Like Love, in Val's Book Nook and Scribbles and Quills. So I'm trying to get my poetry book in those bookstores as well, and any other bookstores I could get them into. So.
Yeah.
And I wanted to also. I'm looking forward to the evolution as an author. You 10 years from now. What are your thoughts? Wait, I say all of that because I might be harping on the fact that you're younger, but who I was when I was 19, and she's not 19, folks, but I'm just using that age, and who I am now, I almost feel as if they're two different women.
See, and that's good. That's good.
It's a fantastic thing. I love it. I love the evolution. Who I was when I was 23 was a very insecure woman. And Lord Jesus, I wanted to I almost feel like if I could go back and do it, I'd be like, honey, no, it's okay.
that's
Put the
really
phone down, stop calling.
Oh my goodness. I'm glad you mentioned that particularly, because one of the things I also took away from your book is that when you're going through, as we say in Trinidad at Sabanca, a heartbreak, and as you mentioned there, put down the phone, do not call. This seems like this is a great way to dive into a different universe and see, as you mentioned, that somebody feels seen, but you can actually sort of get over that heartbreak and be like, I could read this.
Yeah.
And I can see that I'm not alone.
Yes.
That's important.
And poetry is a huge outlet. There were so many times where I wanted to, like you say, pick up the phone and call my muse, and I just wrote a poem instead.
Yeah.
So
See, these are options. These are things. These are great. Get this book. It is a beautiful way to get your catharticism. I can't say the word anymore. I have officially have a list. How do you say anyway, a cathartic moment.
Cathartic moment. There we go.
Let's go with that. A cathartic moment with this wonderful book, A Pretty Thing in the Middle of Nowhere, collection of poems that tell a story of love, heartbreak, and healing. And I think
I'm very
That's a great
excited, to
place.
be honest, because it's being released on the 21st of June 2025.
why is that significant?
Because
to you?
it's the longest day of the year and it's the summer solstice.
yeah, it's so true. I forgot about that.
Is
Actually.
it why is it significant to you?
Because the book there's a poem in the book. The second poem in the book is called "When the Sun Met the Moon," and that's a big thing in the book. The speaker is the sun, the muse is the moon, right?
Wow.
And June 21st is the start of Cancer season, and Cancer is ruled
Are
by
you a Cancer?
the moon. No, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm a
no.
Leo.
Pick up Cancers up in here. Hey. Okay, sorry.
But I'm a Leo, which is ruled by the sun.
Yeah.
And Cancer is ruled by the moon.
Yes.
So the sun meets the moon on June 21st.
You see, great things just happen in June and July. And well, I'll give you August
August
because you're a Leo.
Yeah.
Wise beyond your years. Tamara, you're always welcomed. Always welcome. Listen, you could just pass by and you're like, oh, you're going to do a poem. Folks, whoever in that seat, move. We're doing a poem first. Right. Nice to see. Whatever. You're more than welcome to come through.
And thank you very much for having me again. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great to have you. It's such a pleasure to meet you. And I will second what Karen said. I'm really looking forward to seeing your continued evolution because you are clearly already making waves and to see what's going to happen. And also, I think from the social work perspective, how you're going to positively impact society, that makes a difference as well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
man.
I'm looking forward to see it too.
Hey!
So all the best. Thank you again. And we are done with Lit Chats, folks. We have that every Saturday at 5 o'clock. You can listen in, tune in to any of the local authors that we have here. And we have a lot coming up. Yeah. We have a long list. I real popular, clearly. Well, yeah, Lit Chats is heating up. So that's it. Thank you and take care.
The ladies link up to chill and chat. Karen, Maria, and Natasha on Talk City 91.1 FM.
Saturday, 10th May, First Citizen Supernova.